This lady came and literally was hand putting all of these with glue guns. Yeah.
Some exquisite stuff.
Brian Thomas was the one that, kind of gifted this. Yeah, they're already on.
Most of them are. Are you guys rolling?
All right. So, my name is Ruben Ayala. This is Jay Dahan. Jay, pleasure. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, my man. Thank you for having me, man.
Yes, sir.
That's how we do it.
Appreciate it. So I know today we have a very cool topic, which is more about masculinity, men in today's society, what makes men the type of men they are based on their backgrounds,
Right.
and based on the past experiences that we've had, growing up, and how we express emotions and how we express, how we feel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely. First of all, I just want to say thank you again for having me on here. And just think about the way that we first connected.
mm-hmm.
Connecting in this world nowadays, we're stuck so much on these devices. And we're not doing this anymore. We're not doing the face-to-face anymore.
Correct.
And what's so interesting about that is, like, how do we meet?
Face-to-face?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, and here we are. We're having a talk now. We're going to have a talk about life. We're going to, just chat because, cameras on, cameras off. At the end of the day, authenticity is the most powerful frequency. And what connected me with you specifically was your authenticity. So when I first met you, first of all, the energy you bring is just amazing because you're always smiling, you're always happy, you're always that guy in the room. And it's like, I want to know who that guy is.
Yeah.
And you create that presence, you create that energy, and that's how Brotherhood is built. So a lot of what I do want to talk about today, and I thank you for saying that, is really being able to understand as a man how we come together as brothers, but as a man how we show up in the world. Because that's all we're trying to do. We're trying to grow a business, we're trying to grow a family, we're trying to build another next generation, we're doing all these things. But at the end of the day, we got to take care of ourselves too, as men.
1,000%. I think the other day we were at a dinner, and we were talking about the airplane mask, right?
Yeah.
Whenever you're on the airplane, the first thing that they tell you is, hey, if you have a child on your lap, you have to pull the mask down first, you help yourself, and then you help the other person. And I think that is, very key in today's world. A lot of people put themselves after, and when they put themselves after, then, if they're not fine, then you have nothing else to give. And kind of going back to the topic of putting yourself first, a while back ago, I was talking with my dad, and he says, if you don't love yourself first, then you have no love to give. So then you can't love somebody else. And so you have to love yourself first in order for you to have some love to give to somebody else. And so it kind of like resonates with that topic.
And it's like, you got to be selfish to be selfless. So many times we want to be selfless. We want to help. We want to help people. We want the good for people. We have good hearts and intentions. But the problem is that if we can't take care of ourselves first, how are we ever going to, exactly how you said, take care of anybody else?
Yeah.
I found that as a struggle for me, growing up. I was always trying to people please. I had money decently growing up. I went through a bad childhood, which we can dive into if we need to get some clarity. But during the years that I actually had money in my hand, my dad ran a successful business. He was able to provide me a decent lifestyle. I was in a momentum where I was trying to just please everybody. Like, I was trying to help everybody else, and that was my intentional thought. Like, my heart actually wanted to help people, but I was doing it in ways that were not right. It was materialistic. It was like, I can buy shots at the bar. I can show off the money, show off this, and show off the lifestyle, and create this image, but it wasn't really me because I was trying to take care of people that without taking care of myself. And it wasn't until I was able to really like hone in on that and go through that maturity, basically what it is in our own ways, like we do as humans, and really be able to dive deep into those core internal beings of being a man. Because it's hard to express our emotions sometimes.
Yeah.
We feel certain things and we go through certain things, but it's hard to address it. It's hard to explain it. Who am I going to talk to? Like, we're chilling out at the bar. It's not going to be like, hey man, let's talk about some real stuff here. Like, it's hard. It's hard for us to express ourselves until we get into maybe like an intimate situation like this. So for me at that point, it was interesting to see that journey curve of being kind of little selfless, trying to be selfless. But then until I started to understand my own love for myself, that's when I started actually finding the right relationships in my life. That's when things started kind of changing out, because I was like, no. what is making me happy now? Like, how am I, like, what type of woman do I want to be with? What type of family do I want to raise? What type of business do I want to create? And that kind of got me more clear on myself. And I think that's really, really hard for men nowadays specifically, is finding that inner self, finding that inner lion, I like to say, that roar that we have, uncage your roar, lion's den, everything we do. But it's like that lion is ready inside to roar, to prance. It's been working its entire world and its entire life to keep going by and to become the king of the jungle. That's the point. We're trained every single day to be kings. That's what we do. That's what we wake up. A real king understands that. So let's dive into a little bit of how you were able to kind of really take from the energy of running a business now and being that leader figure and being that lion and getting your roar out.
Yeah, so I think like you said, foundation is key, right? And so foundation starts when you're younger, right? With the things that you see, how you see things, your parents operate, how you see, your uncles, how you see your grandparents, how you see, the people around you, and especially the males around you, right? A lot of the times, I was raised by, like my mom, because you said your dad had a successful business growing up. We come from the optical industry, and so my dad was, him and his brothers and my grandmother were working together and opening up different stores to where I think they had like about 176 locations throughout Mexico. Laboratories where they would manufacture opticals, and then they later grew to 300.
Oh, wow.
And so at that, how I grew up was kind of like the man goes out and works, and my mom has always been a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
Which, now that I have kids and I lived with, the mother of my children for a couple of years, I see that a stay-at-home mom is a full-time job, and I have nothing but respect for that, because it is.
Hats off to the single moms, married moms, any mom. Any mom. It don't matter what mom you are, just mad respect.
And so, sometimes like my dad would be like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna go open up another city, and so I'm going to be gone for like a month. And so we wouldn't see, pops for a month, right? And then, we're going to school and the routine with the mom that's raising you. And so that was kind of like in my head, it's, you need to go out and get shit done, however long it takes, because you've got people at home that are waiting for you that you care about, right? And nowadays, I feel like we live in such a... You need it now, and if you're not fully present with your family all of the time, then that means you're a poor dad, or that means that you don't care about them, or that means that, because I think culture has a lot to do with it.
And I want to bring that back. We're going to get right to that, because I want to kind of chime in here. What's interesting about that is same situation. I'm Indian.
Culture. Going back to culture, yeah.
But before that, like my dad... Mom, same situation. Man worked, mom stayed at home. I understood that. My dad's worked. He's at an Indian grocery store for the last. He's at an Indian grocery store for the last. Refresh.
There we go. Clean up. Done deal.
He's at an Indian grocery store for the last 23 years, and in the last 23 years, he's taken 10 days off for my sister's wedding. Okay. In 23 years.
Because every single day.
Wedding. Only for 10 days. I'm not married yet, don't worry. 6 days in India, 4 days in Australia. We did the whole wedding, everything like that. That was the only 10 days he's taken off in the last 22 years. Yeah. No Christmas, no nothing. So I still understood.
Talk about ethic.
Yeah.
Work ethic.
Work ethic. Of course, the work ethic, absolutely. But it's also like us now, growing up, it's like we didn't really have that father time that most people in this modern day world would be like daddy issues.
Yes.
Which fair enough, it can cause, by all means, not having a dad present right there and then, and having that male figure was a little bit, but that also grew our feminine side. It also grew us to understand women, and what we now understand is how hard they worked, because we understand it now. See, when we were younger, we took a little advantage of it. I'll be like, yeah, Dad, why are you working so much? Like, what are you doing? Like, come on, I want to see you. But now I'm like, yeah, no, that's what he had to be doing, because that's why I live my life. And that's why he's passing it now down to the next generation. And it's my job now to take it to the next generation.
And that's why you're tough.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's crazy. And going back to the culture topic now, is like culture makes a huge difference in the way that we work. And I feel like nowadays, I'm going to open up this topic because women empowerment is killing it. Women empowerment is killing men's growth because I love what they're doing. There's no disregard to what they're doing. I think every human being should be equal. There's only one race, it's called the human race. But when you try to segregate yourself now as being an authority, being more empowered, we can do what men haven't achieved. We can do more than men. When you get into that type of society, what's really wrong about that is now you're getting back to now men and more importantly young boys. More importantly young boys.
Young men. Yeah.
That are now starting to come into this world going like, so I don't know where I stand. Where am I?
Kind of neutering them.
I'm kind of confused. Why are you putting confusion into a child now? So it's amazing that the women empowerment are doing this thing, but we also as men, here's a statistic, bro. Last year, 13% of men in the United States seeked out personal development. 13%.
Only 13?
Guess what about women?
80%.
64.
Jesus.
64% of women are growing themselves, going to workshops. Every time I'm in conferences, I'm always constantly developing. I see more women than I do see men. Us men are stopping because
We need to have bigger teams, bro.
Yeah.
Change that dynamic, of course.
But we got to empower men.
Of course.
We got to bring men into the game because men don't understand right now that they are fucking powerful. They are fucking lions. They're sitting here going like, but I work so hard. I'm trying to run a business. My wife hates me. This is happening. I get that shit's gonna fucking everything's gonna fucking throw life at you, man. Your business is gonna fail. Wives, kids, parents, deaths. Everything is here to kill us in some way. But it's how you recover now is what matters. And us men need to really step up on how we can recover, how we can actually release emotions because we don't. We don't sit and actually talk about it.
That's
because it doesn't make sense. You got to be a fucking man, right?
So yesterday I was listening to a podcast. We were driving out to Turf, and my brother says, hey, because I have the pleasure now of hanging out with my dad and my brother for work, for business, and he says, hey, Pops, can you put the podcast we were listening to yesterday? And it was these two guys speaking in Spanish, and they're talking about the power of words, right? And the power of how you can speak in first language. I mean, in first person. Mm-hmm. And that's how you should speak whenever you're talking about like what you're going to accomplish, right? Because it's just deriving back to it. And, he says, there is this subject that throughout my university career, we had to read 7 books a day, more or less. So a lot of people, he says there was 3 divorces during my schooling. And I was like, listening to it, and I understand because, as a business owner, sometimes, your business is like a baby. You have to be there multiple times and taking care of it, and only you can do that until somebody else can do that for you or with you, right? And so when they said that, it really resonated with like right now that you say, like people get divorced because things get rough, and then what this guy was talking about is, like how many people blame their life for having a shitty life because their dad passed away. And it's like, well, how long ago did he pass away? 20 years. And you're still talking about that? Right. Like, move on.
Exactly.
Like, move on to the next thing, right? But that goes back to emotions and how people do not.
And I like that move on topic. I really want to run off that move on because that is the step. Move on.
It is.
But how do you do it, though? Because it's so easier said than done.
As a matter of fact, I was watching a movie last night because, sometimes we all need to relax and you just want to turn Netflix on. And so...
nothing against Netflix.
It was the movie Mine, and it's about this soldier that, is going through the desert and he steps on a mine. And so the guy steps on the mine and he says, I can't move. And they tell him it's going to be 72 hours before somebody can come pick you up, which means he has to go through like night, day, everything on it. And then the desert's playing tricks on him and he's hallucinating, no water, everything like that. So he's going through like nature. And every time he's seeing himself land in the same position, right? Which is one knee down and then that one there. Mm-hmm. Whenever he'd get in bar fights, whenever he'd do this. And it takes him back to him seeing his dad beat his mother up so bad that the mother, later was in the hospital and passed away, things like that. And so he couldn't move on from that. And so the whole movie was about him just moving on. And whenever he sees the convoys and his what's it called? The thing that you throw and it shoots up in the air and it's SOS pink. It looks like a
like a
gender
flare.
reveal thing. Yeah,
Like
like
a
a
flare.
flare.
Yeah, yeah.
Was too far out, and in his dreams he had a guy say, "Dude, be a free man, even if it costs you a leg. Just move on, but be a free man. You can't stay here because you will die."
That's the devil talking right there.
Right? And so the guy finally reaches out, and when he grabs it, it never went off, and it was a can that he had stepped on, thinking it was a bomb. And so he's just laying down, laughing, crying, like face all cut up, everything like that. And his best friend had actually stepped on one of the landmines, blew up, and that happened. And he had told him, dude, sometimes you have to take the risk. Even it might be a small move for mankind, but it might be a large leap for some people, right? And so when he comes down out of the plane, he sees the woman that he loves. And the first thing he does is he just kneels in the same position, and then that's how the movie ends. So he took the leap of faith, right? But going back to how do you move from that? How do you move from that is one of my mentors gave me this mindset, right? He says, fear is like a fire, and so what happens to a fire? The more oxygen you feed it, it grows. And so the more the fire grows, the harder and the more intimidating it gets. Mm-hmm. And so as soon as you see fear, you need to ask yourself, if I do this, am I going to die? And if you're not going to die, then go for it, because you need to kill it. You need to cut all the oxygen out of that fear that you have in that minute, because the bigger it gets, the harder it is for you to kill it. Right? And so a lot of the times people see something that is, scary to them, and, they'll have a month like in business where, you can have ups and downs, and it's not always just steady growing, and sometimes you have to take a lot of risk, and you have to kind of embody it, and you have to realize, if I don't do it now, it's going to get worse later, and you have to do it. And so I think that's one of the best steps to kind of just move on, is acknowledging, like, am I going to die?
True.
No,
Going back to that reference.
then do it. Yeah.
And I think even just like now, how many of us now actually live our lives like that? How many of us are willing to take that risk?
Very few.
Exactly.
Very few.
And why is that? What is happening with the psychology now when you start to think about this? And here, I want to go into something very, very interesting. When you look at the generations, now, I'm a big believer of generations, of course. That's why we're here. Next gen, right? Maybe that's how we do it. When we look at the generations, though, let's take it back to the boomers. Now, see, the boomers' age was very interesting.
You know what? I've realized a lot of people do not know what the boomers' generation is. So if you can clear it up.
Boomer generation, you have probably right now 65 plus.
Okay.
Anybody that's 65 plus right now.
Okay.
That's a boomer generation. That boomer generation was interesting because they had one intention. Their intention was to survive. So that's why that generation would get beaten at work. They would work all day. They would come home. They would provide. It was the traditional system. Man goes out and work, come home, take care of family, put food on the table, do it again, do it again, do it again, do it again. That was the mentality that they had. Now, see, what happened is that when it switched now to the Gen Xers, the Gen Xers was that middle generation now that kind of came in and was their children that now stepped in, but they didn't have technology. They didn't have any of that stuff. But they grew up now to understand one simple thing. Now, it wasn't about survival anymore. It was about standard of living, which is make enough money, pay for the house mortgage, pay for the car payment, get the kids to college. That's it. White picket fence. That's it. That was their mentality. Oh. Now we're in a generation, the social generation, where we have gone away from standard of living now, but to the quality of life. That's why this generation doesn't care about pay. They care more about how they feel. What are their benefits? Do I get the right parking stall? I was talking to a CEO on a plane coming back from New York, and he was telling me, and he said his top marketing guy, 22-year-old kid, quits on the spot. Comes to his office, quits. He's like, "What are you doing?" Like, "What do you mean? You're making an amazing salary. You're doing everything right. What's wrong?" He's like, "Honestly, I have to walk across the street in New York, and sometimes my laptop might get wet, so I just don't want to do that." He felt more convenient to not get his laptop wet versus like passing up a $200,000 salary. So the social generation versus Now the Gen Xers versus the baby boomers, you look at the difference in psychology now on what we're chasing now today. It's very different, and it's not helping us because we see things on social media like a Lamborghini or like a big house, and we think that's what it means to be a man
Or successful.
or successful.
Correct.
But that's what us, again, men specifically, where I dive into men because I really help men, with the Lion's Den and everything that we do. We're really inspiring and empowering men to come in, to be able to be vulnerable.
So by the way,
express
every time I
themselves.
go into one of your meetings, it's nice to see all these men come together to, kind of voice what's going on in their life and get advice from yourself or others in the group that have gone through similar experience. And, I think that's what Uncage Your Roar.
Yeah, it's all about being, a band of brothers. Brotherhood, blessings, and breakthroughs is what I always say. The brotherhood between men, just like us. We became brothers.
Yeah.
We met, we connected, we've maintained, we've been consistent. Now we're here.
The funny thing is we didn't even meet in the city that we live.
True.
We met, in a different city in a self-development course.
Yeah.
And
that just goes to show both of us, though, on how much we value and appreciate self-development and growth. Even earlier you were telling me, you're hiring consultants, you're refining the system, you're growing your business. You're taking the time to spend money on the business, like in the right ways. You have to do that.
You have to.
When you get sometimes as a CEO or an owner, you're like, oh no, I know my path. I know what I need to do. I've gone through experience. I've been burnt before. I know my way. But sometimes no, it's like you got to ask for help, and you got to pay. You got to pay for help.
You got to pay to play.
That's it.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, that's awesome.
Tell me a little bit more about the business right now. Where's the business at? What are we pushing to do? What are we trying to get?
Business right now is towards the end of the year, which it's sales, so it's very, very like let's go do this, let's do that. And so what we did right now is we went back to the core, which is back to the basics. Sometimes you can kind of start having a lot of success, and then you stop paying attention to like the things that really matter. Yeah, and work. And so it's one of those that you have to kind of check yourself, reflect,
get back to the basics, streamline,
make a list of who are going to be the people that you can depend on the most, who are going to be the people that you can rely, who are consistent and who are go-getters, and then start putting people under them again. And give them more responsibilities so they're more engaged, and they value themselves a little bit more because now they have more responsibilities. A lot of the time, people get bored out of their normal jobs, not saying in this business, but because it's repetitive. Every single day they do the same thing, and so that might be why sometimes a lot of men are lost in life too, because they feel like they have no value.
True.
And the cool thing about what we do is we take it back to the jungle. When we take it back to the jungle, we're like hunters. I believe there's two types of people in this world. You either have hunters or you have gatherers. People that just stay back and kind of make sure everything is done well, while the warriors, are the ones that go out and they don't come back until they have a cheetah on the back of their neck, and they feel that that sense of I brought this back. Here you go. Boom,
that's what we need to bring back. That's what we need to bring back.
And so I think the opportunity in this company is essentially what we do. If you think about it, what we've been doing is we meet at a certain time every single day, and we pack everybody in a car, and we just drive, and we drive until we get to where we're going, and we drop off people on this street, on this street, on this street, on this street, and we'll meet when it's time for lunch.
Or like call when you have a door. Call when you have a sale.
Call when you have an appointment, and put it in the group chat.
I love that.
And so
that's that ruthlessness.
That is the most gangster shit, that I feel like actually can build value to people, and can actually, if you can learn how to get dropped off in somewhere where you do not know, and you can walk out with an $80,000 contract, $50,000 contract, $100,000 contract, with meeting somebody that you had never met, that multiple people have come to their house trying to do the same thing that you're doing, and that same day you walk out with an executed contract and with the people seeing the value that you bring, that right there,
that's a win.
That right there
That's
is business. Does that make sense? If you can master that, you can master any job interview. You can go work for whoever you want. You can apply for whatever it is. The problem is that the lions that we have here, if they're successful at that, they will never want to go have a desk job
Yeah.
ever again.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Because you're now taming the lion.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to make this kind of like formal intermission right now for a quick second and just say I'm going to take my jacket off. But now that we've had a little bit of this,
Yeah.
we're going to go a little darker.
A little darker.
Call it the tequila that's kicking in right now, because I want to have, business aside now. Let's move away from business. Let's get into real life now.
Okay.
Let's get into the real shit. The shit that people want to hear. The failures.
The
Fuck
failures.
ups. The mess ups. The real shit that nobody talks about. Because everyone's talking about the successes. Everyone's posting the wins. Everyone's showing the cars, showing the clothes, showing the watches, showing everything like that. But nobody's talking about the bullshit that we work on the back end.
Okay.
How we get into relationships, how we try to, be able to run our businesses when things are hitting hard. Like, for my example, I'm going to start it off right now. Business aside, I'm going to talk about just, being a man in this world and trying to find a relationship. It was so hard for me. I was single for so many years. I was engaged, actually. I was engaged for about 2 years. And before that, I had a high school sweetheart. So I've been kind of in relationships pretty much my whole life from like high school. And when I got to be single, I was like, okay, whoa. I was engaged. Now I'm back to single. I like, what do I kind of do? But I'm a fresh guy. I know how to walk around. I know how to act my act. So like, I still have presence. But my intention wasn't necessarily like after a relationship like that. It wasn't necessarily to go out there and go get laid. It wasn't even just to go and find another girlfriend. It's like I actually had to spend a little bit of time alone to really understand myself and be like, who the fuck am I? What do I actually want? Because every relationship before me, I'm luckily blessed now after Future. I found someone now. But before that, when I was in that single period, what I realized was each ex taught me a very valuable lesson. Like my high school sweetheart, she was very family oriented. She was very family connected. She was my same culture. It was like that high school sweetheart, destined to be married, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then, boom, all of a sudden 5 years later, gone. It's like 5-year commitment, everything like, okay, done. Now all of a sudden I'm quickly transition actually, and then get involved with this girl. She's so cute. And then I pour my fucking heart out. Not even did I pour my fucking heart out. I got on fucking knee, bro. I got on a knee, I proposed to her, I gave her the ring, I took her out on a boat in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, like I did the whole shebang. And then 2 years later, and then all of a sudden, 2 years later, from that breakup, actually, that breakup was fucking horrible because I introduced her to one of my good friends, and literally like 3 weeks later, they're now together. Like 6 months later, they're engaged, now they're married.
Oh, wow.
So I'm so God bless them because
I think you dodged a bullet.
it was but it's like I almost feel like I connected them together, which is awesome, which is my silver lining out of the moment. But fuck, that hurt, man. That fucking hurt. That hurts. Even thinking back. And then my last one, which was kind of my assistant, that turned into a bit of a side relationship. You never go business to pleasure. You can go pleasure to business, and if that makes sense, if she becomes a wifey, then you bring her into the business, but you never go business to pleasure. I made that mistake. So started, fucking my assistant. It was bad. It was good, actually. It was a lot of fun, to be honest, man to man. It was a lot of fun. You can agree with that one.
I can agree with that one.
But also, it taught me that I need somebody business oriented. So when I had somebody that taught me family orientation, and then like the second one, my ex-fiancée, she taught me, because she was beautiful, right? I was so proud to walk around the room with her. She taught me love and lust. And then my third one taught me that she needs to be business. She doesn't need to be running my businesses, but she needs to be business oriented. She needs to understand.
She needs to have some sort of brain here for you to actually talk to her a little bit about what you do.
And those three now gave me that insight of like what I actually want as a man. And then I went out there and I was single for a couple of years, and I didn't really dabble too much, but I dabbled in my own ways. I'm not that type of guy, but I also understood that what is that person? And then all of a sudden, God surprisingly brought that person to me. And luckily, God bless, I'm in that relationship now, and she's my wife, she's my queen. But let's bring it back to now some of these other situations. I want to hear from a little bit of your relationship experience and what you've kind of gone through as a man as well, too.
Relationship experiences,
He's like, there's the pause. There's the pause. Like, oh.
It's because I don't know if I should just go super raw with you and just be like,
if you're asking that question, you know what the fuck to do.
Okay, so check this out. I
want to get raw. I want to get fucking raw right here. This is what the people want, man.
I was 14.
We did enough business talk.
I was 14, and one of my favorite cousins, actually he's my favorite cousin. He holds that title.
Okay.
I was missing these two teeth right here, and so couple of people, like if you really know me, you know this story, and I think it's how it all started.
Mm-hmm.
And so we go on a ski trip, and you know, after that they're like, hey, do you want to come to Mexico City? And I was in that awkward phase where, you know, growing up, I was a fat kid. I weighed like 150 pounds. You know, I was size 16 husky. You know, if people don't know what husky means, it's like bigger pants, same feet length. You know, and you know, I would eventually like get bullied at school because I had a brother that had Down syndrome, and so one day I remember they're trying to like take me into, you know, a trash can, and it was like 6 guys, and 2 of them are pulling on my feet, and the other one are pulling here, and you know, I got a rock, smashed it in the head, and then I got in-school suspension, and it was just like that, right?
A lot.
And so all of a sudden, I hit like 14, and I'm starting to like stretch out. So I slimmed down a little bit, and then I was doing like kickboxing and, you know, very active, but I was still missing these 2 teeth. And so my cousin comes in, and he's 4 years older than I, and he's 18, I'm 14. He's like, no, let's go to Mexico City. And his dad has a plane, so we fly in his airplane, so I got to, you know, sit on the passenger side and just kind of like fly all the way to Mexico City from El Paso, Ciudad Juarez, where I live. So it is a ways. And when we get there, he says, hey, cousin, today we have my friends have a party, but I need to make sure you know how to talk to girls before I can take you. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, we're pulling up to Starbucks. And so we pull up to Starbucks, and he's like, dude, you need to get 10 girls' numbers. And he says, but start with the ugliest one so you can gain some confidence, right? And so we're at Starbucks, and I remember just like, he's like, that one. I was like, no, like that one's no, like, you know, big old girl. And I go and I said, you know what? He tells me, you can see it also as they can be your friends. You know, you're not just trying to date them, right? And so I said, okay, cool. So when that happened, I entered a way of like being able to actually speak to women. Eventually, you know, a girl that I saw, and I was just like mesmerized, and I was like, no shot, I am not talking to her. And you know, she's with his mom, so every excuse I made, he just overcame. He was like, dude, if you're so worried about her being with the mom, I'll talk to the mom, you talk to the daughter, or you're not coming to the party. Right? And so eventually, like, you know, I ended up getting that girl's number, and my confidence grew, and I think that was the biggest summer of growth in my life. Right?
You're forced into action.
Correct. And so I came back a different man. Like, I came back to school, and I just, like, you know, thought, like, you know, the prettiest girl, I know how to talk to you now.
Boom.
I know how to look at
Going for the best.
Look at you in the oh yeah. And so, high school sweetheart, you know, dated her for 2 years, and family loved me. I was there every Sunday, you know, and I wrecked my car. The dad, you know, gave me hers, etc. And so it was a beautiful relationship. And I moved out to college, and that's kind of like why we broke up. She was a year younger. Now she's married,
location
and yeah. And so, but from that I learned a lot of what I liked. You know, like family was business oriented. Dad extremely successful, and you know, holidays, everything was split, and we were all together. And so that was great relationship. I was just wanting to experience college in a different city, and you know, it ended up in that. And then from there, I got another girlfriend, and she was very methodical to the point that she was 2 years older than me, Canadian, and
Canadian.
yeah.
Okay.
Volleyball player. I saw her playing in a game, and I was like, "Yo, from over there in Alberta, you know."
Oh, that's my.
And she showed me a lot of structure and organization, and so
love it.
she moved to optometry school, and again we separated, and I stayed in San Antonio, and it was every other weekend going to visit, and just kind of got burnt out, and you know, nothing but love. And she showed me, you know, how to map out my month. Like, she would literally sit down with me.
She was like meticulous.
And she was organized. Like, this is when you're gonna come visit me, and this is what we're gonna do, and blah 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 blah. And so it was always in an agenda. And I had never been used to being in an agenda, so I learned, you know, a little bit from that.
There's pros and cons to that.
Yeah, and then Yeah, so then I had another girlfriend that was like a 2-year relationship, and I think her dad and I were like best friends, and
Okay.
we just, always hung out. But similar cultures, similar values,
Gotcha.
similar a lot of things. But I think I personally just wasn't ready to settle down and to just kind of want to grow up into something like, you know, and I think a lot of guys might still have that feeling, where you're just
Yeah.
kind of not ready to make a commitment and take the
Fair
next
enough.
move. And so I think out of all of them, I've learned everything. And then,
You know what you're feeling right now.
I started dating
You know what you're
a
feeling.
very beautiful woman.
I can feel it. I can feel your energy.
And,
Let's talk about it, man.
and
Mm-hmm.
we had kids.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, amazing woman. She's the mother of my kids. And so our families were just very different to how I was brought up, how their culture was, how their expectancy of what a man is, their expectancy of what a mom is, and my expectancy of what it is, right? And she took the leap to come out here to Florida with us, with nobody here, with 2 kids, learning how to be parents, and me starting a business and
Yeah.
working like 9 a.m. to 10 o'clock, 11, whatever the time was, like my phone was always on. And so the main problem was, you don't give enough attention to your family. And that was like a constant, but then I had nothing else to fall back on if I didn't focus on the business, because we had expenses and we have kids, and it's very scary to now have other people depend on you,
Yeah.
and you have to limit your time because they don't understand the way that you kind of were brought up. And so I guess all of my previous were kind of like same culture, and so they understood the dynamics, and this dynamic just was not understood. And I think that was like a very big thing for me, that it's like, dude, like as a man, you need to let me go out, do my thing, and I will help, I will be there, but you got to respect that and not hate me for it, right? And not try to bring me down on it.
Mm-hmm.
But that also showed me, Jay, like extreme resilience of like not quitting, of not caving in, of knowing that this is what I stand for, this is who I am, and this is what I want for my kids, whether I'm there every single day or now that I see them, when I see them, I'm that Disneyland dad. And by Disneyland dad, it's like kids are super excited to see you, and I book off my time for them. And we went.
Talk to me a little bit about the kids, because that I love that, first of all, just being the Disneyland dad. But that must be still hard though, to like not have control over that now, right? Isn't that like for especially as a man, like we want to be always in control. We want to feel. So when now like there's situations where it's like you're almost like fighting for that time. Or whenever you get that time,
Yeah.
like
So
it's constricted. Like,
so
tell me the feeling behind that.
going back to learning organization and time blocks,
Yeah.
we had a very good attorney, and he figured out time schedules, and so now I know exactly when I have them, when I don't, what holidays they're with me, for how long, where they're delivered, where they're picked up, and so it's very clear.
So
Right, and so now.
listen to what you just said right there. Listen to what you just said right there. So now it works because there's a schedule in place.
Correct.
But when you were together and you still wanted a schedule in place, it didn't work. Because of what? So we needed a fucking attorney in the middle to dictate terms before we wanted to abide by the terms that would have actually solved the whole fucking problem to start off with.
Yeah.
Now, mind my language on this, but this is so crazy. One of my childhood best friends, he's a divorce attorney up in Canada. And it's so crazy now that, like, just going through the process. Like the process of, can you believe that
crazy,
a lawyer
though.
just dictated that, and now you're happy, she's happy, right?
Yeah.
Even though y'all aren't together. But if you were together and you had that schedule, would that have been different?
I think part of that schedule is if I work until 11 o'clock at night on a day that I don't have the kids, nobody's waiting for me at the house. Seeing at what time I got there and why I got there so late and why I didn't help. And so that goes back to expectations, right? And so whenever someone has expectations that you need to come at 9 p.m. and the moment you get there at 9:30, there's an issue, right, or something comes up and you
that's-
delay a little bit longer, then
the
that's very
worst.
hard. Does that make sense?
So there's 2 points on that. I want to be ruthless here with you on this, because there's one point where you're right. There's one point where the woman is right.
Correct.
And I want to give both sides to it. Just want to give that limelight. On your side of things is that us as men, we're out there, we're pushing ourselves. All we're doing it for is to come back home.
Correct. For the family.
This is what women don't understand. They're like, oh no, you need to be here, you need to show up, you need to do this. But it's like, on my side, like, I'm showing up as much as I possibly can to generate money, a lifestyle, to put food on the table, to provide our next generation, to provide the empire we're building. Like, where are we not connecting here? And she's like, you said 9 o'clock and you came at 9:30. So it's hard for us men, because us men, we're like, whoa, we're a little one thought at a time, but it's a powerful thought. That's why the game of chess is very interesting, right? The king moves one spot at a time. The queen can go across the board.
The queen has to protect the king.
Exactly.
At all times.
But wait here. See, that's the thing. The queen is the most powerful piece on the board.
Absolutely.
But when the king dies, the game is over.
Correct.
So when both partners understand that actually is the next step. So going into this situation with you, it's very interesting to kind of hear that perspective and taking that perspective of king and queen and the struggles that we may go through. I think there's a lot of men out there that don't know how to deal with that, how to express that, how to feel that. Like, now you're feeling, look, that actual separation is not letting me feel that I have to go home and somebody's there. But on the opposite side, when she was calling you out for that 9 to 9:30 thing, we as men also need to understand the opposite side, which is committing to our word.
Right.
Now, see, the thing is, I've done this multiple times with my girl where I say, babe, I'll be home at 9 o'clock, and I do show up at 9:30, and she does the same thing, man, same reaction. She's like, what the fuck? Like, you told me by 9:30. And I'm like, babe, like, I was downstairs, I met a potential client, like, I was at networking, and, like, you got Mo at the bar, sometimes you might have one extra, I'll be honest with you. Like, it is what it is,
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there just fine, and then I realized, though, and she comes to me, she's like, listen, she's like, I'm okay with it, but you just got to understand, like, you gave me your word, so I'm expecting you to be here. I'm going out of my way to prepare dinner, to get everything ready, to have it warm, to have it ready, and then you show up 30 minutes late, now my dinner's cold, I feel and I'm like, babe, so, like, I didn't understand your side of things either, because, like, I am in my own world and I am doing my own thing. Mm-hmm. And this is the problem with couples nowadays, that we're not doing the right type of communication because we don't have the right timing. We don't know how to, especially with kids. Like, I don't know kids. Like, having kids is probably a whole different game as a dad, as a parent. But even for me in a relationship, it's maintenance. Like, you got to actually, like, devote time to sit there and talk. And even I did it earlier today, legit. I'm walking through, I made a comment, I made a second comment, I didn't realize at the time, I'm outside on the balcony, I look back at my girl, I was like, babe, right, I love you, man, I love you, babe, you love me? And, like, I kind of was looking for, like, a reinforcement, she didn't give it, and I could feel the energy. I walk right inside, I go sit down, I was like, babe, something's off.
What's wrong?
I was like, something's off, and I can already feel the energy, and I can already know now. I've already done self-reflection in my own head, and I realized the first time I told you about the drinking comment earlier, 30 minutes ago, that's where it set it off. And then when I told you weren't invited to that one event, and I'm going with Gus instead, that was the second trigger point, and I was like, now it's a third trigger point where I need to sit down, we need to have a conversation, because I don't want you to feel uneasy. So let's express. And she kind of, like, looked at me, she was like, whoa. And I was like, girl, get ready. Because you ain't just messing with nobody. Like, I want to have these deep conversations, because this is what men need to learn, and it's hard. It's hard to do it because we don't have the confidence to do it, because we're not in a situation that I can already hear from you. You were never given a place to do that. You were never given a real place to kind of express yourself. It was like, you got to show up. You got to be here. Why aren't you showing up? It was always against you in a way versus bringing it in.
Then again, like, she's at home with 2 kids, and
right.
I tried providing, help with, like, a nanny. We had a full-time lady live with us. That didn't work out. And so for me, it was a lot of frustrating thoughts of, like, dude, if you need so much assistance and so much help, and that's why you need me here earlier, and I can provide somebody else to do it. Correct. On the woman's side, they're like, yeah, but that's not you. And it's like, I totally understand.
Then let's live here and be broke, and we can stay in love.
Correct.
And we can be broke in a corner, and we can stay in love, and we can live happily ever after in our little corner.
And then as soon as, money goes out the window, goes out the door. Love goes out the door, right? And so...
They don't say that when they're spending it.
Of course not.
I'll tell you that
not.
now.
And so,
those Gucci purses didn't buy themselves.
And so it was more of,
Not to hate on that situation.
getting like... constantly having to think, like, how can we, fulfill both things? Because as a man, you get divided into, time with your family and time here. And, for me, like, I believe in quality time. I think that's something that my dad always kind of reinforced, not quantity of time. And so a lot of the times people confuse quantity of time versus quality of time. I could see you, like with some of my best friends, dude.
Yeah.
I do not have to talk to them every single day.
Right.
But the moment I see them, it's like we're back at like
Boom.
whatever it is, quality of time,
That's
and
quality.
then I can literally last 3, 4, 5 years without talking to them.
Yeah.
And as soon as I see them, we can connect again, and that's called quality time. And so I think
Agree with that.
you can also do that with your significant other, your kids, your parents, your siblings, and you just when you're there, you're there. I think that's very important, and I think we'd be very successful as humans if we could actually realize that when we're sitting at a dinner table and you see everybody just on their phones, it's like that's quantity time now. It's no longer quality time. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Versus like what we're doing right now, like I'm sharing things that are quality to me and you're sharing things that are quality to yourself, and we get to kind of like climb the ladder to a different threshold of understanding and communication.
Right.
So why? Because the moment we both got here, we put our phones away, right? So it's not ringing in our pocket. So I'm not thinking like, oh, someone's calling me, right? And sometimes these time blocks can cause issues with other people. Because why didn't you answer me? Why did you take 40 minutes?
Exactly.
I know you were there, but you can always send me a text, and those are the things that it's like, yeah, but I'm focused,
Exactly.
and I tell people I can't multitask. You talk to me, and if I'm texting a message and you're talking to me, I'll be like, hold on, because I can't give you the attention. Then when I look up to you and I say, all right, you got the floor. Now you got the floor.
Right.
And so I think that is also very important in understanding that. If you're taking your girl out for dinner, you're taking your girl out for dinner, and your phone's on Do Not Disturb.
Yep.
Those 1 hour, 2 hours, you do that, it's great. And that was a big lesson that I learned from my past relationship was even if we were at dinner, the nicest dinner, and one of my reps called me 10 o'clock at night, hey, I need you to help me close it. I'd either do it on the table or I'd step out and do it, and then I'd come back to a mad lioness, and it's like, hey, it's work.
Pissed off
and now I'm like,
and they're the ones that hunt.
and now I'm like, fuck, it was a business deal. That's what pays for this shit, And then now I'm feeling like, damn, why do we even come here if I'm gonna spend money and you're gonna be mad? Like, and then you go into the blame game.
And then she's going like, oh, it's all about money now, and you're like, it's not about the money, but like, what do you expect? The dinner ain't gonna pay
and so now it's now
I think so many men in the world experience that.
Yeah, and so now it's like, dude, I already learned that. So like, if I take somebody out, like I will put my phone on Do Not Disturb,
right?
Because you learn from your mistakes, and I think going back to talking about mistakes, like we've both made a lot of mistakes.
Yep.
And so now it's important to like learn from your own mistakes, but you can also learn from other people's mistakes. Like if people are listening to this and you're that guy, like, dude, trust me, like I got that said to me 1,000 times. But like one of my favorite quotes my dad says is the teacher will appear whenever the student is ready. Right? And so I was not ready to hear that.
Gus Nagel on that one, my mentee that said the same thing.
There you go. And so I will not hear that because I didn't want to hear that because I thought I was correct and I thought I had the upper hand on everything because I was a man and all their beliefs were incorrect and my beliefs were correct, and now it's quality of time. I noticed I was not living to what I was saying whenever I was experiencing quality time.
And your quality time, taking quality time, let's start to wind this down a little bit now and start to understand even the way that we started this, right? Quality time is where we're at right now with our conversation. So before I even say how we began this, I always like to say small people talk about people, average people talk about events, great people talk about ideas. Evaluate the conversations that you have with people around you. Are we talking about people? Are we talking about events? Are we talking about ideas? Now, in a podcast situation like this, of course, we have to do all of it. We have to do everything. We're communicating in this way. But evaluate that conversation, because one thing that I realized is when you say quality of time, we started this episode with something that I valued so much in you, which was authenticity. Authenticity is how I started this, and now you've put the conclusion to it of being quality of time. which is really amazing, because when you take authenticity and you take quality of time and you put it together, there's only one thing that actually comes out of that: being present.
Being present.
Being in the present is the hardest thing that we as humans do. We're always stuck in the past, reminiscing, remorsing, trying to figure out what we did wrong and how we never deal with that bullshit again. Or we're stuck in the future all the time. Oh, I'm aspiring this and I want to do this and I can achieve all that. We're stuck not here in the only place that it matters. That's why we're here having this conversation.
That's why the present is called the present, like a gift. It's the present.
It's a gift,
you know.
So thank you for today, man. Today's been incredible. I appreciate you, having me out here and just, talking real and just being who we are, being the lions that we are.
It is what it is.
That we are, dominating.
Nobody is perfect, right? We've all made a lot of mistakes, and to the people that I've made mistakes with, I greatly apologize. We're living and we're learning, and all I can do is learn from the mistakes, and I feel like a lot of people should do, similar, and that's called reflectioning. And one of the best ways to reflection is whenever you get home and you have that chill time. And
Yeah.
I think you still use the same planner I use, right? Is it the 10X planner?
Yeah, of course we use that.
Sometimes, okay.
Always.
And so
10X, baby.
yeah,
A little
10X,
shout out
baby.
to GC himself.
And so it's always important to like scratch off your targets. And then I started practicing gratitude. Again, very significant. And growing up, in the mornings when my mom was driving us to school, she'd be like, "Hey, Ruben, so what are you thankful for today?" And I had to say something, and then my brother would copy me, or my other brother would copy me, or I'd copy them. But we had to say gratitude.
Yeah.
And then she would come in and pray with us at night, and that goes back to how we were made, right? And she'd come back, and every night prayer. And so it was the same 3 prayers, and then after that, we had to give gratitude, and we had to say like what we were grateful for today. Oh, because I have a house, because I have a brother, because I have this. And then after that, we had to say, I love you, Mom, I love you, Dad, I love you, Diego, I love you, Daniel, I love you, Emiliano, Mickey. I love my dog. And when you're little, you just love everything, right? And so you're just like saying like, I love you. And as I moved away from living at my house and church wasn't as centered, and gratitude, I stopped praying, I stopped giving gratitude. And now that I, like this morning, I sit down and I write down, 10 things that I'm thankful for and why. And why am I thankful for? Because you can be thankful for, like today, at night, I'll probably say, I was very grateful that, I had the ability to do a podcast, because I think I reflected on a couple of other things that I needed to reflect, right? And remind myself of it. And they're going to make me better in this way, and this way, and this way. And so for a lot of people, like I would leave you off with, at night, write down like your targets, like everything that you hit during the day. Like today, this was something that I needed to do. I did it. I crossed it off. And if you didn't, then you drag it over to the next day. But then you write down like everything that you're thankful for. And they say where there's gratitude in the same part of your brain, anxiety cannot live.
Right.
And
no
so,
negative emotion can.
No negative emotion can. And so it's very important to do that. Now, I want to do, what my mom was teaching me to do back then, but now in writing, because it's more powerful. One of my mentors say, whenever you write in blue ink. And there's something very powerful about blue ink. Blue ink specifically.
Blue
and
ink.
So all my pens are blue. And I like the Sharpie ones,
I like that.
right? But that's, something to kind of send everybody out with, because even on your mistakes, you have to be grateful for committing them, because it gives you a building foundation for you not to know how it is. It's like a kid, it's a belief that instills in your brain. If I tell you that it's hot and you think it's cold, and the moment you touch it, you burn your finger, that's a mistake. And you're going to remember it for the next time that I say it's hot. You're gonna be like, I got you, right? And so,
well, let's be grateful for this brotherhood, for the blessings, for the breakthroughs, and what's coming next.
You got it, my brother.
Appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. What's goody?